Now, I'm sure we've all woken up sometimes with aches, pains, feeling a little bit sore. Well, why is that and how can we avoid it? Well, I'm going to be talking to Chris Biggs, who's going to tell me all about the importance of stretching.
Come on through, Alistair. Okay, takes it.
So Chris, why is it important that we stretch and feel flexible?
Well, stretching is important for a number of reasons. It's not uncommon first thing in the morning to feel quite rigid and not as mobile as you usually are. And that happens because your heart rate slows down, the blood flow to your muscles is not the same amount, so you don't have oxygen-rich blood flow to your muscles, they do stiffen up. So it's important to get up gradually, slowly, and actually do some exercises to get yourself in a good state to start your day. Flexibility is a relative thing and you can lose it, and stretching actually prevents wear and tear on the joints. And when you're doing these kind of movements, if you notice anything like a pain, a twinge, an abnormal sensation anywhere, that might highlight an underlying issue, and you should get that checked by a chiropractor.
So you mentioned there about wear and tear on the body. Obviously, one of the main areas is going to be physical exercise, sport, and so on. And we all see professionals stretch and warm up and things. What's exactly going on there?
Sometimes it's recommended before exercise, but it's also important to exercise afterwards. Like, exercise in general has an effect of shortening muscles and therefore making them less flexible. Sports science these days tends to highlight a lot of benefits from stretching, but stretching needs to be specific. Two athletes might play the same sport, but their strengths and weaknesses are going to be completely different. So it has to respect your own unique physiology. And flexibility, if you are flexible, you're less likely to strain or sprain something because your range of motion is greater and you won't overextend and cause an injury.
Now, you mentioned sport there and being individual. I suppose that's why coming in to see someone like yourself, you're going to be able to actually help design a program specific to an individual.
There'll be a lot of problems that you won't actually be able to diagnose yourself. You can have underlying knots in your muscles, you can have things that actually have been damaged, and there is a difference between active and passive stretching. For example, the amount of motion you can achieve as an individual actively moving that limb, whereas the amount of motion that I can achieve passively by me operating that limb. And you get a greater appreciation for how that given structure is functioning if you do it passively.
Now, we know stretching and flexibility is good for bone health, but we can't physically stretch bones, can we?
No, but you can stretch a joint, basically, which is pretty much the structure that links two bones. And stretching, it's important to think of it not just in terms of flexibility of a muscle, but also the greatest amount of motion you can achieve out of a joint. And some people do make a disconnect between the two. For example, if we take a look at the spine, you can see that it's composed up of many bones, and the bones form together through joints. But muscles actually animate joints, so it's a bit of a faulty process to think of stretching affecting the one thing. It's good for both the flexibility of your muscles and the maximum amount of motion that you can achieve out of a joint. So if you want to maintain flexibility overall, it's good to stretch both.
Now, we're going to have some examples of stretching in a moment, but it's important to understand the science of all of this. And you talked about muscles. We've all experienced that sort of tightening of the muscle. What's actually happening there?
Well, it's not uncommon after an injury to experience what we call muscle spasms, and that's an inbuilt mechanism. It's the way that your body manages the situation. It understands that you've injured a tissue, such as a tendon or a ligament or a joint capsule, whatever it is, and the only way it can prevent you from potentially repeating that movement that damaged you in the first place is to tighten up and spasm.
So Chris, perhaps you can show me now some more general stretching exercises.
Sure, if you don't have a serious condition right now, so nothing's overly painful or you have a big indication that you should have something checked, these are a great kind of collection of exercises to do first thing in the morning to loosen off your neck.
Okay.
So one of the faulty problems that a lot of us have is that our head ends up too far forwards on our thorax, and you get that from stretching. So how you counteract that, you want to take your right hand, your fingers, place them on your chin while looking straight forwards.
Okay.
Place your other hand behind your skull and you're trying to push your chin into your neck, like that. So it gives you a bad chin angle, but it's really good for reducing that poor movement of your neck and the bad positioning, because it has several consequences. So a consequence of that forward head posture is a muscle group called the scalenes tighten up and get in a bad state. So how you rectify that, how you improve the situation, is whatever side of your body you're wishing to concentrate on, you grab it with your hand like so. So in this instance, he's going to be stretching the left muscle group.
Okay.
So you keep a nice firm grip with your hand and you just gently turn your head away from. And that will get a certain part of that muscle. To get another part, you just tip your head over gently.
Yes, I can feel that in the neck there, so I can see, yeah, that's working.
Then the final element is you turn your head down and like this. And you'll stretch all three parts of that muscle and loosen them off and become more flexible. So another great exercise that you can do when you get out of a shower, for example, and you're drying your back, you can turn that into something that keeps your shoulders nice and mobile. So how you would actually perform it is to place the towel behind your back like you would be drying your back ordinarily, and you're going to be stretching one of either arms. So in this case, I'm going to start with my left arm. I want to keep that completely relaxed, and I just pull through with my right arm until I feel a stretch at the front of my left shoulder. And then I'm going to reverse the movement to affect the top shoulder, the right one. And then literally the same thing, you just switch arms. So down, and then up again.
So perfect, you've got a dry back and you've done some stretching at the same time. Chris, thanks so much, some really, really good tips there, and I know as always, if people come along to you here at Swindon Chiropractic, they'll get some personal and helpful advice to make sure they stay fit and healthy.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much indeed, Chris. And you can find out more information, as always, on the website. That way, Swindon Chiropractic will keep you moving.